Hello everyone, today I wanted to try and compare the upcoming Genshin character banner to the current character banner that we already have. I already did a video comparing the two weapon banners, so you can check it out if you want. There are actually only two key differences when it comes down to the character banners, and the first difference is that the fate points will reset. This is actually a pretty big drawback because the current banner basically allows you to pull whenever you want. But the new character banner, unless you keep pulling on the same banner, when the banner resets, that fate point that guarantees that you have 100% chance to get the character that you're aiming for will actually disappear at the end of the banner. The other key difference is that the limited character drop rate, which is not the character that you're aiming for, will increase from 50% to 70%. This increase is because, let's say you're pulling for a limited character, like in this case, the next banner you may be pulling for Eula. Then you will have a 10% chance that you will get either Venti or Klee. This basically means that you have 50% chance on Eula, 10% on Klee, 10% on Venti, and only 30% chance to get one of the standard characters. Starting off from the drawbacks, when we compare the current banner to the upcoming banner, in the current banner, when you start pulling at 0 PT and 0 fate points, if you get a 5-star, you have a 50% chance to get the 5-star that you want. But if you lose that 50-50, you will get one fate point. And that fate point, basically what it does is the next time that you get a 5-star, you don't have a 50% chance of getting what you want. You have a guaranteed 100% chance of getting the character that you want. And this fate point is the same for all characters in the current banner. Even if the banner resets, or even if it's a completely different character. So if we were to compare it on a graph, it would look something like this. Let's say I'm pulling on Yamiko's banner because I really want Yamiko, and at a certain point I get a 5-star, but I lose, so I get a Chichi instead of a Yamiko. Then Yamiko's banner ends, but I still get to keep that fate point. And let's say Yoimiya's banner comes out, and I also want Yoimiya. So I keep pulling for Yoimiya, and when I get a 5-star, I have a 100% chance to get Yoimiya instead of a 50-50. On the other hand, on the upcoming character banner, you will basically have the same thing, but at the end of the banner, your fate point will disappear. So how things will look on a timeline will be something like this. Let's say I'm pulling for Yamiko, and at a certain point I lose my 50-50 to Chichi. Then Yamiko's banner ends, and what Yamiko's banner ending means is that I will lose the fate point that I just got thanks to Chichi. So when I'm pulling for Yoimiya, instead of having that 100% guarantee that I get the character that I want, I will only have again a 50% chance of getting the character that I want. The only way to prevent this is to come prepared and with enough pulls to guarantee the character during the banner. So if I get a fate point during Yamiko's banner will basically become the deadline to use that fate point. Now that we talked about the drawbacks, let's talk about the improvements. In the current character banner, you have a 50% chance of getting the character that you want, and a 50% chance of getting any of the standard characters, which, if I'm not mistaken, are only 7. So you will basically be re-rolling the same standard characters over and over. On the other hand, in the upcoming character banner, you will, just like before, have a 50% chance of getting the character that you want. but the other 50% will be evenly split between the other 5 characters that are on the banner. So if you are pulling for a limited event character, for example Eola, you will have a 20% chance of getting one of the other 2 limited event characters that will be on the banner, and only a 30% chance of getting one of the standard characters. This means that in total you will have a 70% chance of getting a limited event character instead of 50%. Now, I don't think it's gonna look all that great when you look at this, but instead of having Eola, Klee, and Albedo, imagine that you have something like, let's say you're pulling for Yaemiko, but the other 2 limited characters from Inazuma are Raiden and, let's say, Kazuha. Like, that would be huge. It means that even if you don't get Yaemiko, you have a 20% chance of getting 2 really strong characters that are not standard characters. This is even bigger for people that are pulling for constellations, because people that pull for constellation will most probably have all the standard characters at a certain constellation, so they will no longer want standard characters. So even if it's a limited event character that they are not interested in, they would rather have that than get another standard character. I think in conclusion, for me, this banner is 100% better than what we already have if you are patient enough, because that 70% chance of getting a limited character I think is really huge. But what does patient mean? There are actually 2 things to consider. So, the first one is that you have to make sure to have at least, let's say, 160 pulls, because even if the max PT would be 180, every 10 pulls you will be getting a 4-star weapon or character, which I think in the overall will be enough to cover the last 20 pulls. And the other one, which is also really important to consider, is that when it will come down to new characters, you will actually have to wait for 3 reruns and a few months for, I think, the total that you will have to wait after the character has been released will be 1 to 2 years. So let's say a new really cool character came out. If you want to pull for that character in this new banner, you will have to wait for those 1 to 2 years. And I think most people don't have the patience to do that. If you are pulling for a weapon, maybe it's good, but I think if you're pulling for a character, most people will be like, fuck it, I'm gonna try and pull for it on the normal banner. One last trick that I wanted to share with everybody was that you don't actually need 180 pulls to try out your luck. Let's say that you only have 110 pulls. You only need to keep safe 90 of those pulls, because if you lose your 50-50s in your first 20 pulls, you will only need to use up to other 90 pulls in order to guarantee getting the character that you want. So this means that any pool over 90, you are actually free to use whenever you want, without fear of losing that fate point when the banner resets. This will be it for today's video. Press the like button if you guys enjoyed, and maybe share the video if you think that there's anyone else that wants to know more about the upcoming character banner. And maybe I'll see you guys next time.